focus of the media itself, and here I'm talking about the media first because that's, I understand that's what you exactly want to bring into the conversation. The media has been a catalyst of political thinking, and especially with our political class is concerned, it listens more to the views of the media than it does of peers in politics or it does of activists who pick up issues. It's only when the media picks it up and the government fears it itself becoming unpopular, that's when there's real mass movement. So after the Delhi gang raping issue, the government acted very fast in bringing out a law. Output of that law is a different matter altogether. But there was some direct action which was taken. I think a large part of these activist movements or these issues need to be covered more extensively in the media. And that's where I think activists can be involved. Not only in raising the issue itself, but ensuring that they find the right platform in the media so they can actually impress upon the government to take quick action.
Thanks, Karikesh. Santosh, just to build on this, and because you talked earlier of a new form of social action emerging, we talked of the alliance. But again, from learning from the women's movement, one of the important ideas is the notion of intersectionality. But somehow this media and this alliance that we saw here in Delhi, and completely respecting what Kamalaji is saying, that there are multiple mutinies happening around the country. But in Delhi, we don't see a resonance when a Dalit woman is raped, paraded naked. So how would you respond to this in terms of this new alliance? So don't respect, appreciate this intersectionality?
I think, parts of the new alliance, at one level the new alliance does speak of a new spirit and a new call to action. But in many ways, there are several areas that are problematic about this alliance also, because a lot of this action actually is kind of consumerist in its orientation. It's an extrapolation of yourself that you are seeing, and therefore it's a very quick and easy sort of a palliative that you seek for wherever you are able to locate yourself in the problem, you take that problem seriously. The problem itself, and even therefore the modes of action that you seek for redress, are often therefore death penalty, which is quick, which seemingly satisfies that need. The moment you step outside that frame, this is true for the middle class certainly, which has been active in this particular instance. This is true for media, and to me that's the larger truth in India today, that there is a single formation now, business media state. Instead of their playing roles where one, in a sense, was a counterweight to the other. So there were areas of overlap, but that function increasingly you are finding all of it is kind of merging into a single phalanx, if you like. All of them, in a sense, point to the same direction. And therefore, this sort of a consumerist view of the world, what sells, what will be viewed, what is of interest, even when it comes to questions of this kind. So therefore, you would imagine that when you look at questions of this kind, you would step outside that frame and look at the notion of justice in its purest form. But you are not looking at justice in its purest form. You are not defining justice in its large. It's my justice and my sense of immediate justice that I can consume to my satisfaction. I think that is the reason why some of this change, as at one level there is much to sort of be happy about in a sense and see this as a building block. But the mechanisms that we have to convert that into something more powerful, I think those mechanisms today are where there is a problem.
Thanks.
भाई ये पॉइंट बहुत अच्छा था, इसके लिए ताली बजाओ.
अब आप बोलेंगी तो आपके लिए फिर तालियां तो बजेंगी.
बात पसंद आई
तो कल मैं थोड़ा सा हटके अपने असमंजस को आपसे सुलझाना चाहता था. हम लोग मतलब मैं जब बड़ा हो रहा था तो लगातार फेमिनिज्म का लफ्ज़ सुनते थे, वुमेन्स स्ट्रगल की बात सुनते थे। तो पिछले कुछ वर्षों से भाषा बदल गई।
वो पूछते हैं ना, वो पूछते हैं व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन फाइनेंशियल बॉन्ड्स एंड मेन, एंड द डिफरेंस इज फाइनेंशियल बॉन्ड्स मैच्योर। मगर मैं मानती हूँ कि ये वाकई बड़ा हुआ है और बड़ा होता रहेगा। अभी तक हम लोगों ने जब शुरू में 85-86 में ये लफ्ज़ सुना था जेंडर, तो मैंने और मेरे दोस्तों ने 5-7 साल तक तो इसको यूज ही नहीं किया। हमें पक्का यकीन था कि ये जेंडर इक्वालिटी या जेंडर वायलेंस का मतलब है तुम भी मुझे मार सकते हो, मैं भी तुम्हें मार सकती हूँ। अभी वो स्टेज आई कहाँ? मतलब 90% तो मर्दों की तरफ से ही आती है, 90% वायलेंस आपका कास्ट की तरफ से दलितों पर जाती है। मैं मानती हूँ 10% हो सकता है, 5% हो सकता है। तो हम बिल्कुल जो तुमने अल्फाज इस्तेमाल किए वही करते थे कि जेंडर इज अ यूनिवर्सिटी एकेडमिक कॉन्सेप्ट, यूजफुल है। वो 8-10 साल बाद मुझे समझ में आया यूजफुल है, तो मैंने अब इसका इस्तेमाल किया है। मगर मैं विदाउट कनेक्टिंग इट टू अनदर वर्ड which is now going out of use, patriarchy. पेट्रियार्की के बगैर ना तो आप जेंडर समझ सकते हो ना उसका कोई मतलब है। सो पेट्रियार्की इज अ स्ट्रगल कॉन्सेप्ट, इट इज अ पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट, ये सड़कों की भाषा है। जेंडर हमारी, जब जेंडर एक कंसल्टेंसी वाली बात हो गई, आप 1 साल का कोर्स करके आ जाओ, कंसल्टेंट बन जाओ और फिर दूसरे दिन अच्छे एनजीओ में नौकरी मिलेगी, उसके बाद एक्शन एनजीओ मिल जाएगी और उसके बाद यूएस में मिल जाएगी। सो यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट, प्लीज डीपोलिटिसाइज द इश्यू, न्यूट्रल इसको बनाते हैं। क्यों? ताकि किसी को बुरा ना लगे। जब आप कहते हो ना जेंडर वायलेंस, तो किसी को चुपता नहीं। आप कहते हो पेट्रियार्कल वायलेंस, तो मर्दों की आपको पता है ना मैं क्या कहना चाहती हूँ। और फेमिनिस्ट कहने में भी लोगों को बहुत परेशानी होती है, सिर्फ मर्दों को भी नहीं, औरतों को भी परेशानी होती है जब अपने आप को फेमिनिस्ट कहना। और असल में फेमिनिस्ट बनना एक बहुत ही मुश्किल चीज़ है। और जो फेमिनिस्ट नहीं है, मैं उसको 10 दफ़ा ठोक बजा के कहती हूँ कि देखो सोच लो, अगर जिंदगी अपनी खराब ही करनी है तो आ जाओ हमारे साथ मिल जाओ। बोली क्यों? मैंने कहा देखो फेमिनिस्ट बन गया तो 99% जोक्स पे नहीं हंस सकते हो, 90% से ज़्यादा हिंदी फिल्में बॉलीवुड हॉलीवुड कोई भी फिल्में पसंद नहीं कर सकते हो। धर्मों को तो फिर भारी रखना पड़ता है, परिवार में भाई से भी पूछना पड़ता है कि भाई साहब आप लव तो बहुत करते हो पर प्रॉपर्टी तो पूरी ले जा रहे हो। पतिदेव को भी पूछना पड़ता है कि सर आप मोहब्बत करते हो, करवा चौथ पे आते हो शाम को, मगर कभी कभी किचन में भी आ जाओ तो अच्छा रहे, खाना वाना। तो ये बहुत वेरी डेंजरस इज़म, एंड द पर्सन इट हिट्स मोस्ट इज यू योरसेल्फ। Before, as a feminist, you raise your finger to anybody else, you have to raise it to yourself, because patriarchy sits in all of us. So in all our courses and things we say, feminism needs to be used. Some of our men say, कि देखो feminism मत कहो, उसको humanism कह दो। मैंने कहा भैया humanism तो पहले से है जिसमें औरतें गायब थी। तो फेमिनिज्म इसको पॉलिटिकली आगे ले जाने के लिए लाना पड़ेगा। आजकल मुझे लग रहा है कि पेट्रियार्की थोड़ी हिली सी हुई है, तो हमें भी उम्मीद बढ़ रही है कि 50 साल में तो इसकी गिराई देंगे और हम लगे हुए हैं इसके पीछे। तो अगर ये किसी दिन खत्म हो जाती है इंशाल्लाह, तब हम नाम बदल देंगे फेमिनिज्म का, हम कोई और नाम ले देंगे। पर जब तक हम पेट्रियार्की का राम नाम सत्य है, सत्य बोलो गत्य नहीं करते, जब तक हम इसको बैरी नहीं करते, तब तक फेमिनिज्म मुझे लगता है यूज़ करना पड़ेगा, पेट्रियार्की अल्फाज को यूज़ करना पड़ेगा बिना डरे, और थोड़ा बहुत डरते भी हो तो डर लो, पर यूज़ तो कर लो।
आप दुआएं देती रहें कि मैं बड़ा होता रहा। कलिकेश, वापस जो चर्चा हम कर रहे थे, this narrative of anger in terms of the protests that we are seeing, starting from, as I said, from the Arab Spring. So it's a global phenomenon. In India, there's certainly a crisis of legitimacy in terms of the citizen-state relationship. I think that whether it's because of the growing inequality, crony capitalism, on the one hand, on the other hand, you see deepening of democracy. 60 plus years of democracy has certainly reached several excluded groups, or it's also now the complete unhindered flow of information. So there is a significant change that we see, and then there is this crisis of legitimacy that I would say. There's also, in terms of what I would say is vacuum of democratic politics. So how would you respond to this? There's such a huge vacuum, and we belong to a political system, but that's certainly not being able to in any way respond to this crisis of legitimacy.
No, I agree. I agree. I think the political class, by and large, has been caught unaware. Caught without substantial ground under its own feet. The first reactions is you would sort of notice, be it the government or be it even the larger political class, is one of the factors. This will never happen. No, we are doing it, but so-and-so has done it wrong, or the government has done it wrong, or the government tried its best, but ex-policemen did it wrong. If the lack of comprehension on how such, as you call Arab Springs protests or whatever, have manifested itself not once, but again and again and again on issues, have completely caught the political class, and especially the government. So it's primarily the duty of the government to respond in the correct fashion in these cases at least. They've been caught unaware. I think there is no alternative to democracy. So we have to live with democracy. For legitimacy of the democratic system, an evolution needs to take place and will take place. I'm not skeptical on the fact that the political class will be involved to understand and comprehend and react in a more legitimate manner to these protests. I also believe, I think the point you said right at the end, which is the free flow of information, which to my mind has been the biggest catalyst, which will be the biggest catalyst in the evolution of the political class in going forward from now, will take these protests. Kamla was talking about there is incidents in rural India. Will take it even further and will bridge the divide between rural and urban India. And when you find, let's say, specific to gender issues, when you find women addressing those issues or raising questions on these issues when politicians like me go to villages, that's when you see the political class will completely absorb themselves into those issues. Now, I'll give you an example, personal example for me. My belief has been, whether it's true or not, I don't know, I don't have the data to substantiate it. But my belief has been that from my 2004 MLA election onwards till now, it's not been a religion or a caste which has supported me. It's been women and youth. Now, that's my belief. So when I try and work development issues, I try and work development issues on those areas. Apart from the fact that they've been supporting me, I think these are the areas which have been neglected over the years. And I find very little takers in the political system which support me. Be it my own party workers, predominantly most of them are male. I try and get female workers, but because of the social religious stigmas that Kamla spoke about and you've spoken about, not many of them actually come out and get involved in the political process. But I find I run into the roadblock. Be it the government, where I'm trying to push for, let's say, all the girls' schools in my constituency to have running water and bathrooms. A basic need for women, at least the young girls, to be there in school. And these are issues which don't get taken up. I think this needs to change and it will change. People, if I have felt it, I'm sure other politicians will also feel it. Are feeling it, will also feel it. I think there will come an inflection point where the need to associate women more into the development program, more into the political process, overcomes that of religion and caste. And I know for a fact that in many cases, even states like UP and Bihar sometimes tend to do that. They're starting to do that. I think in the years to come, this is bound to happen.
Thank you. Again, just to clarify, I was not saying that there's any alternative to democracy. The point I was making that the current political system does not offer democratic options. So it is the people's struggles which will have to create those alternatives. That's the point I was making. And just to take what you've just said a little further, Santosh, the middle class has been at the forefront of this angle to quite an extent, both in terms of information also. One of the phrases that I read from some sociologists that now we're looking at markets replacing the ideology. And what we are seeing is autonomous citizens who are then relating with the political system, but it's the socialist kind of disappearing. So in all this, how would this middle class, which in many ways would provide also the leadership, though I fear Kamalaji's cynicism and also expectations from the mutinies that are already happening, how would this middle class integrate the questions of just access to basic drinking water and schools water, education in rural, or the struggles for caste justice? So how would you place the middle class?
Actually, I can't say that I have a very optimistic view on this because I think, if anything, the direction. I think the middle class today is actually viewing the fact and feels an acute sense of loss of political significance, which it never had numerically, but it always the sense that there was a certain alignment between the agenda of the middle class and the ruling elite, a natural sort of a sitting together of interests. The middle class over the last 20 years, where democracy in India has become significantly more represented, middle classes sees and imagines have grown, and there is a need, in fact, that so the whole story, the educated must come together. For instance, it's a frequent sort of a trope you will find in conversations, that it is the educated that must, which at a certain level is a fundamentally, that is an antithetical thought. The idea of democracy, the idea that it's only a bunch of college educated or people with degrees, it's an intrinsically sort of an unequal sort of a view, and yet it's said casually all the time, and it is said as the answer to things like corruption, for instance. And the reason why corruption is so much on the agenda is because it's a primarily middle class. The way it is framed. I mean, it is not a middle class concern. It concerns everyone, but the way in which it is framed. So, I think, in fact, I would in some ways say that beyond what you said, that because there isn't that much hope in the engagement with the state, you need alternative modes of action. I would argue that at some stage, it is the biggest issue in governance today is the lack of a causal relationship between delivery of governance and chances of getting re-elected. Yes, it is welcome to have alternative modes of action, to have more direct forms of democracy. But if there isn't a causal link, then what happens is that democracy becomes just a reallocation of power. And it is seen through the lens only of the redistribution of power, however representative those claimants might be. But the reciprocal action, I have got power, what do I use power? If there is no demand for it, if you are not holding the politician and the political class accountable, and if you are not mobilizing the core political constituency, then you always have that gap. You can try using other modes and they're useful and they're powerful, but that is the biggest gap that exists.
Thank you, Santosh. I don't know how Kalikesh would respond to this point of no causal relationship between delivery and re-election. Unfortunately, one of the aspiring prime ministers, unfortunately that he's an aspirant, seems to believe that. So, anyways, if you can respond to this, Kalikesh, but I just also wanted to build on the previous question, that was the middle class. Because, in fact, we're looking at some write-ups on you, and you do work particularly with young people. So one of the worries that we have heard, and have done some work with young people, that particularly what we saw again in Delhi, they're neither left nor right, pretty much apolitical in terms of their politics. What Yogendra Yadav says, politics of anti-politics. So how do they get integrated into these larger struggles? Because ultimately we have to look at the cross-connectedness of these struggles. The caste struggle, independent of a women's struggle, is not going to be successful, and so on. So how do you look at young people who are so apolitical in some sense? Do respond to the first question also.
So, I think in certain states which are overridden by caste or polarized by religion, yes, this issue of a non-causal relationship between the voter and the elected does exist, and it takes away from the efficiency of democracy itself. I think a large number of states, one that I belong to, Orissa, I think a large number of the southern states actually work on a very causal relationship, and there is a large level of dissatisfaction among the voter rolls, and they change governments very frequently. I think that's a good thing. In my view, it's a good thing if your voter wants more from you, you're not able to satisfy all his expectations. That's always a positive thing. And even though I've been elected twice, and I certainly hope to be elected more times also, but I can sense that dissatisfaction rising even in my own sphere of work. Secondly, the issue you raised about young people, I think that is also changing. I mean, you talked about my involvement with young people. I run the LAM program, which the concept was to involve young people, and a large part of them are the premier institutions, so middle class young people of India, into the political process by allowing them to work as researchers or interns with MPs, and we started with 15, now I have 50, we are basically 15 interns and 3 MPs. I think that's one way of involving them in the political process. But most of the political movements that we have in rural India, that I have in my constituency or my party uses in the state of Orissa, are heralded by young people. So to say that the young people are not involved in direct political action is not true. Yes, it's difficult to get somebody who's looking for a job, who's got a job, to take 5 days off or 2 days off or take 2 days every month off and get involved with politics directly. But that doesn't mean they're not aware. It doesn't mean that they don't express their dissatisfaction. A large part of the dissatisfaction has come out. Yes, it's vented itself out on anger on the entire political class. I think over time they will learn to segregate and identify issues and deal with them as they should be.
Okay, thank you. I just want to do one more final round, more specifically on media, and then we'll have the cultural expression from the 1 billion rise. कमल जी मीडिया पर अगर बात करें तो बड़ा मुश्किल है, आपने उसकी बात कर ही दी थी, पर मीडिया की सच्चाई सास भी कभी बहू थी, और आइटम नंबर संतोष यहाँ बैठे हैं, उन्होंने अब कई वर्षों से एडवर्टाइजिंग का काम छोड़ दिया है, पर मुझे तो लगता है हर तरह के कंज्यूमर गुड्स को आप महिलाओं के जरिए ही बेचने की कोशिश करते हैं, which almost reduces women to consumer goods. दूसरी तरफ मीडिया also has been effective in giving visibility to several people's struggles, and we have several examples of those. So, how do you look at the role of media in all this?
No, ये दोनों सच्चाइयाँ हैं, अंग्रेजी में शायद इसको कहते हैं वो फोक्ड टंग से बोलता है या डबल स्पीक है। और ये हम रोज देखते हैं, जैसे पिछले OBR के दिनों में बहुत हमसे चर्चा करते थे मीडिया वाले, खासतौर से TV वाले। अब चर्चा हो रही है जिंदगी और मौत के सवाल पर, रेप के सवाल पर, और दिल हिलाने वाली बात हो रही है। फिर हमें छोड़ के वो कहते थे कि बस अभी हम वापस आते हैं, और फिर अगले 3 मिनट तक उसमें एड्स चलते हैं, जिसमें कभी अमिताभ बच्चन कोई मालिश की तेल बेच रहे हैं, कहीं पर कोई सोडा के नाम पे शराब